Adnan Abdul Fattah never intended to be on the road that late. Dinner was supposed to be at home, where Tigery Taylor waited with his favorite meal, a simple but thoughtful gesture she often made to bring a sliver of normalcy into their whirlwind life. The conference had run over schedule, time slipping through his fingers like sand. Just 5 more minutes, he had told himself. But those 5 minutes became 10, then 30, then an hour. By the time he texted Tigery, her response was short yet affectionate. Drive safely, love. He never could have imagined how those words would replay in his mind, haunting him over and over in the seconds before everything turned to chaos. The accident happened in an instant. One moment, Adnan was switching lanes. The next, headlights bore down on him, far too close, far too fast. A blinding flash, tires screeching, the deafening crash of metal against metal. Then silence, time warped, sound dulled, his vision blurred. Pain flared through his arm, searing and relentless, as it twisted unnaturally against the steering wheel. Voices drifted through the haze, first distant, then closer, a pounding against the car window. The cold rush of night air as the door was wrenched open. "Sir, can you hear me?" The voice of a paramedic cut through the fog. Adnan tried to respond, but only a ragged sound escaped his lips. His head lolled to the side, and through the shattered glass, he saw the ambulance lights pulsating like furious stars. But his thoughts were elsewhere. Drive safely, love. Tigery's text repeated in his mind, looping like a broken record. Then darkness swallowed him whole. The hospital room was quiet, sterile, but no less daunting when he awoke. The white ceiling above him felt unfamiliar. Machines beeped incessantly, their sounds exaggerated in the heavy stillness. Pain wrapped around his body like a vice, and his left arm was trapped in a sling. But none of it mattered when he saw her. Tigery. She sat by his bedside, small and trembling, her usually vibrant green eyes dulled by exhaustion and worry. Blonde strands fell loosely around her tear-streaked face. Her delicate fingers clung desperately to his uninjured hand, as if letting go would make him disappear. "Tiger!" he rasped, barely audible. Her head snapped up. "Adnan!" she breathed, his name a mix of relief and devastation. Her lower lip trembled before fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "Oh my God, you woke up." Despite the pain, he tried to smile, his usual light-hearted grin. But the fear in her eyes told him it was too late for that. "Didn't mean to scare you," he murmured weakly. Before she could respond, the doctor entered, a composed, middle-aged woman who spoke in measured tones, as if trying to balance the charged atmosphere. She flipped through Adnan's chart, her voice steady, unwavering. "You have a fractured arm," she stated, but Adnan barely heard her. His gaze remained fixed on Tigery, on the storm of emotion swirling in her eyes. Because in that moment, the pain didn't matter. The injuries didn't matter. Abdul Fattah delivered the news with a measured tone. "The good news is there are no spinal injuries or internal damage. With rest and physical therapy, he should make a full recovery in about 4 weeks." Despite the reassurance, Tong's voice remained tight with concern. "Are you absolutely certain? He's in so much pain." The doctor softened slightly. "The suffering is inevitable, but he is not in any real danger." Tigery turned to look at Adnan. His face was pale, drawn tight with exhaustion, but he managed a weak smile, his usual defense mechanism kicking in. "Well, I guess that means I get a whole month of Tigerlily waiting on me hand and foot." A broken laugh escaped her lips. Not because his joke was funny, but because humor was the only thing standing between her and the tears threatening to spill again. She reached up, wiping a stray tear away. "You're impossible." Still, no words could erase the image burned into her mind. The sight of him lying in the street, blood streaking down his face, his body limp and unmoving. It didn't matter how many times the doctor swore he was okay. That moment had seared itself into her consciousness, an unshakable nightmare that haunted her every thought. This wasn't the relief she had been hoping for. It wasn't closure. It was a lingering aftermath of chaos, the fallout of trauma that would take far longer than 4 weeks to heal. As she turned to leave, the weight of it all settled in her chest, an ache that no words, no reassurances could dull. After the crash, love, survival, and the storm of fame, the hospital cameras flickered to life just as Adnan stepped out, his posture steady despite the pain gnawing at his shoulder. Reporters swarmed like vultures, their voices slicing through the air in a relentless pursuit of scandal. "Adnan, after the crash, how do you feel? Tigerlily, were you with him at the time? What's next for you both?" Flashes exploded, microphones thrust forward, and the scent of desperation thickened the air. But Adnan remained composed, his jaw tight, his smile a controlled facade. "I'm doing better," he answered, his voice unwavering, just focused on healing. Tigerlily stood beside him, her body rigid, her grip on his back unyielding. Her voice carried an edge as she shot back at the press. "Right now, Adnan's recovery is all that matters. That is our only focus." She didn't need to say more. Her presence alone spoke volumes. She was there, and she wasn't letting go. The drive home was eerily silent. The weight of what had happened clung to the air like an unseen force. Tigerlily's hands gripped the wheel so tightly her knuckles blanched. Every time another car veered too close, she flinched, her breath catching in her throat. Out of the corner of her eye, she studied Adnan, the subtle winces, the way his fingers curled ever so slightly whenever pain flared through his arm. It was enough to make her stomach twist. Suppose the accident had been worse. Suppose he hadn't woken up on the ground. Suppose tonight she was driving home alone. Her hands trembled at the thought. Home, once a sanctuary, now deafeningly silent. Adnan sank onto the couch with a low grunt, his injured arm propped on a pillow. Tigerlily hovered close, smoothing blankets, adjusting cushions, refilling the glass of water he hadn't even touched. She moved with frantic purpose, desperate to keep her hands busy. Anything to keep from thinking, anything to keep from breaking.